And I like to say that it should feel like, from a user perspective, when you click on a card and go into the detail, that it's like the card is like you're looking through a little window, with like the most important
Yeah.
stuff in the window. And then it's like going into the room.
All right, welcome to OOUX We Did It Again, a channel where Sophia and I expose some of the most frustrating and confusing parts of everyday digital products. And the reason we are is to show UX designers what not to do and how to easily fix them using OOUX. So if you're not familiar, OOUX is short for OOUX, which is short for Object-Oriented User Experience, a philosophy for designing digital systems that respect the fact that people think in objects. So each episode, Sophia and I trade off bringing one another UX fails we've seen in the wild. And this week, Sophia, I'm bringing you a pesky shapeshifter.
Ooh, my favorite.
Yes, your favorite.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, explain to everybody what a shapeshifter is, and then I'll tell you why I love finding them so much.
So if you're not familiar, shapeshifting happens when an object changes shape arbitrarily. So it increases the effort it takes to process information and complete tasks.
Well, like you just said, I mean, it's horrible for cognitive load. Basically, you have 2 or 3 or 4 cards or things that are all representing the same thing, but they look different. You got attributes moving around, and it just increases the cognitive load. Now, sometimes you do want shapeshifting. You need shapeshifting if an object has different states or different roles looking at it. So you want your shapeshifting to be really intentional because it does add cognitive load. But the ones that we like to highlight are the arbitrary ones that are usually caused by design by page or design by feature or siloed teams. There's all sorts of good reasons that this happens, but we really try to avoid it because of, 1, the cognitive load on the user, and 2, it's cost money. So when we can fix those shapeshifters, we're literally plugging holes, not only in draining cognitive load, but draining money from the business, because basically not only are you designing 2, 3, 4 different things. So if you can prevent it in the first place, where you don't have to design it multiple times, you can reuse that design. You also are having to develop those things multiple times. So that costs money, and then you have to maintain it. So you're adding this extraneous complexity that ends up costing the business money and costing the user's cognitive load. So when we can find those and eliminate them, or even prevent them in the first place, it's just a win-win-win situation.
Yeah. All right. So I want to share the product that we're going to be looking at, which is Rocket Money.
Ooh.
It's an app for budgeting and tracking and planning all of your finances. And this is a product I've used for years. I'm so impressed by its usability, specifically in how it visualizes financial data. And actually, that's the exact reason I wanted to bring it, because even though it excels in a lot of ways, I came across the shapeshifter, and it's actually one that I feel it makes me slower, because I can like feel my brain trying to figure out where did these things move and why? And it frustrates me. So
So that's like
let's
even
just
more
jump
of a
in.
reason to bring it here. If it's an app that you love and you've been using for a long time,
Yes.
like Rocket Money, if you're listening, this is a way to make Allie love Rocket
Yes.
Money even more. And Rocket Money is a really big company too. I think they like do mortgages. Yeah, they've been around for a while, so I'm excited to see it. And I don't know, maybe I might start using Rocket Money,
Yeah.
especially if
All
they
right.
fix their shapeshifters.
Okay. The other thing I want to call out that I love about this app is they have this thing called Scramble My Data, um, that allows you to show it to people without all of your financial data in it, which I think is just genius.
Oh,
So Scramble My Data here. I'm going to turn that on. So now you all don't get to learn about what I bought this month. If I go in here, so that is why you're going to see some weird names, just so you know, Frying Nemo, Monkey Store.
Monkey Store.
I did not spend
I wouldn't have put it
$968.
past you, Allie.
I would love if this is, yeah, I'm just spending
Monkey Store.
$8,000 in April. Okay, so let me orient you here. You are looking at a list of transactions, and this is actually a page I spend a lot of time in. I'm coming in here daily, looking to make sure, see what's coming in, what's going out. And more importantly, I'm categorizing these things. So especially me starting up a new business, I need to categorize all of my expenses. So I'm in here a lot. And what you do is you can see these icons on the left-hand side here. These are those different categories, which are wonderful. You can make your own custom categories. I love that they're color-coded. And then you've got some attributes, right? We've got the name of where this transaction is. So some core content, we've got the date there, some metadata, and we've got the total amount. So this green one means this is the, it's going in, it's good. These ones are negative, going out of my account. Okay.
Got it. And the color coded icons is a very nice object oriented principle of being able to kind of have a little picture of it and adding color to kind of add additional visual meaning to it.
And it differentiates these. Yeah, it's really helpful to see the different types then of transactions. Like I love that. I definitely can tell I'm looking for different ones when I'm going through. Okay, so I'm going to click on, I don't know, Monkey Store here. Tell me, Sophia, what did you see?
Wait a second.
Change?
Wait, did the color change?
That's also, I think, a feature of this, that I'm in this scrambled mode.
Okay.
The color did change and also the tag did. So this says groceries now, but that's just, it doesn't normally do that. It's just some bug with the scrambled mode.
Okay. All right. We'll let that one slide then.
Yes. What I'm picking up on here as the shapeshifter is at the top of the page, all of those attributes we saw on the card are now switched and moved around.
Oh my goodness, you're so right.
And it's a little thing, but it bothers me so much because, and at the top you see here, it says Monday, April 8th. So the date's now at the very top of the page. Then we've got pending transaction. This changed entirely. This did not look like this. Monkey Store is now small, which might be intentional. That the most important piece is this here. And then we've got the tag over here where you can change it. So oftentimes I'm coming in here to do two things: change the tag because they don't categorize it right, which is okay, and then rename it also, which I have a little bit of a gripe with, that this is the call to action on the title here is so far away. I want to click on this.
Yeah.
And it's not.
It's a little bit of a broken object there.
It is. It's like a broken attribute, right? Like the name of it.
Yeah. The call to action is rename, and it is disconnected from the attribute of the name. So the more direct manipulation we have, if we can just like tap on the name and be able to edit it right there, usually that's going to be less cognitive load for people than separating them.
Yes. And I feel that if I'm coming in here and doing like a whole month's worth of transactions, I'm renaming them and I'm redoing this, right? And so it's like, oh, I've got to go. I want to click. I always tap on the name of it. So the thing is when I go back, so let me go back here to these. These are very much like, I'm looking for the icon on the left. I'm looking for the name of it. And then the price or the total of that transaction on the right. Then you click in and it's all now just reordered. It's just messing up.
And like, how nice would it be that when you clicked on that, like, I love the idea of like, basically we went from a card to a detail, right? So we've got shape-shifting from the little cardy thing, the little representation going into the full detail. And I like to say that it should feel like, from a user perspective, when you click on a card and go into the detail, that it's like the card is like you're looking through a little window, with like the most important stuff in the window. And then it's like going into the room, right? So really everything should just kind of like zoom in and grow. So there could even be a really nice animation there of just all that stuff kind of like going up to the top. Maybe it gets a little bit bigger, but really, because it's like the header of the page. But yeah, just having all of that information go to the top of the screen, and then you get the detailed information.
You are reading my mind. So I went into, I brought this one all the way into Figma because I'm like, I'm gonna redesign this. I want to see if it actually feels better. Because the whole thing I was getting caught up on is every time I'd go to a detail page, I'd be like, it would take me a couple seconds. And again, if I'm going through 30 to 50 transactions, that's a couple seconds that's slowing me down, and I can feel it. Sometimes you don't feel these. I know you talked about this on our last episode, Sophia, like some shape-shifting, you might not realize it's not, but it is slowing you down. What was that called? The Zabornik?
Oh, the Zagarnik effect. Yes, it's like this, which the Zagarnik effect is so interesting. Just a little like side note on that, because we just talked about it for a moment. I learned about this from Kathy Sierra's book, Badass, Making Users Awesome. I always recommend that book. And it can actually be a good thing. Like if you're writing a fiction book, like a mystery, like you want to leverage the Garnick effect because you want to create cliffhangers, you want to create open loops. Like that's this whole idea of like in a play they call like putting the gun on the table. It's like if there's a gun on the table, it's like somebody's gonna use that
I love
gun.
picking up.
Like, and you're like, but who's gonna use it? So the Zeigarnik effect can be used for good, and maybe even in some UIs, like if it's or like a game or something like that, you kind of want to have that open loop. But then there's times when you don't want to have that open loop, and shapeshifting can do that a lot because when we change things, the user, we tend to think that there's meaning behind it because usually in the real world there's meaning. So with UX writing, this is also a thing that can really throw people off. Like for example, here if it said pending in the card and like processing on the detail, or somewhere else.
Well, and actually,
does it
says pending transaction. So it kind of changed. It adds on. It just is a little different.
It's a little different. And that kind of might be like, wait, is that the same thing or is that a different thing? An example of this, GoDaddy with URL or domains that you've bought. In one place, it'll say expiring, and the other place, it'll say canceling. That was years ago. They may have fixed that. And it means the exact same thing but I had to like use deductive reasoning to figure out that it meant, because it was like the date was the same and it was the same URL. But that's the Zeigarnik effect of like, I'm 95% sure that's the same thing. But when you're, especially with money, you kind of want to be 100% sure. And if it's all these things can add up too, if it's like 6 or 7 things that you're 95 or 90% sure of, that's some math that I don't want to do. But like overall, you're reducing your trust in the system.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, luckily I have a good experience in this app where I do really trust it. But I've come across, and even in some of our other episodes, like when we talk about Amazon Alexa, there's just changes left and right, which makes you really lose trust in it. So anything, especially like, I'm really glad, like you said, financial institutions, you want to feel like you can trust them. So it's important to not have these shape-shifting.
Airlines.
Okay, so I'm going to show you.
When airlines have these, I'm like,
time.
Yeah, or like you're in like, the air. It's like, are they gonna keep the plane in the sky? Because like if you have a bad experience, or it's like even if it's just kind of buggy or something, or like like am I spending large amounts of money, finance, any of these things. I mean, in anything, even like our basic B2C things, you don't want to reduce trust, and shapeshifting can reduce trust. Again, a lot of this stuff is not like this one, for instance, unless you're Allie or Sophia or a certified OOUXer, then you might not really, just like if you're a regular person that doesn't know about shapeshifting, you might not know why it's hard. You might not even realize that the things are moving around. It might be more tacit, that cognitive load. You might not be like, oh, they changed it from pending to pending transaction. That's why I'm being a little bit confused here. Most people aren't going to be able to put their finger on it, but they're still going to feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let me show you my redesign of this. Okay. So similar page here. We've got our transactions. I didn't touch this, but I could have went the approach of where I changed the card to more match the detail page, but I just wanted to stay like, let's say we're keeping this card. I'm going to click in on this. And this is exactly what you described, Sophia. So
I love it when we're on the same page. We did not plan that.
I'm surprising her completely with this. So what I intentionally did is now I made these larger, like these are important, but we've got the title of it here. April 7th is a date, which I saw that you can change the date in it on the detail page, which is great. So I moved pending lower, like knowing that pending, it was over here. And then we've got this price. So I'm always looking to the right for the price, always looking for the name of the transaction on the left. Now I'm sure our designers that are watching this, like I might think like, oh, what if you had a long title there, our name of the transaction that's going to run into. So, it's been a while since I've designed, but there's all those constraints in something like this that you need to think through. And then at the very top, I have that category. So you can use the drop down to open and close the category. And I wanted to keep that at the top, even though it was on the left-hand side. Let me go back here, this card. So the little different category, I just moved it right above it. So you could open that. And that's where I'm usually going.
Yeah.
To like edit
And
something.
those are all, you're intentionally shapeshifting. You're like, okay, I'm going to move this around, but the prioritization hasn't changed. And
No.
that's, I mean, even moving something to the top, like sometimes that needs to happen. You have, or even between different cards, like you might have a card that's more like a table view card, and you might have like the kind of the baseball player card, and things might move around. You might want both of those cards, but the prioritization isn't going to change. And you're not like
Yes.
having, the color coding change. We saw that at Alexa, the icon changing.
Yes.
Or like sometimes I'll see it for like people, like the person will be in a square in one view and in a circle in the other view. We saw that in Google Photos, where in one
Yes.
place they were in a square, in one place they were in a circle. And again, it's just like, especially with shapes, that is how we recognize stuff. We recognize stuff by the shape, by the gestalt, how stuff is arranged in relationship to each other. And all of these abstract things that are on these digital screens, we really need to help these human brains that have evolved in the real world. We need to leverage how our brains work. And we can do that just by keeping things as consistent as possible. We're very conservative when it comes to consistency. Again, sometimes you might have a really good reason to switch things around, if it's two different users looking at it, right? So the transaction might look totally different to the customer service representative than to an end user. That's fine too. Or a different state, maybe it is like a canceled transaction or something like that, like might be grayed out or, have a little red icon. So that's fine too. You're going to have different states of a thing, different stages of a thing. So there's definitely object permutations where the visuals are going to change on it, but you just want those to be really intentional. And you always want to weigh, like, if I change this stuff around, I'm sacrificing consistency. And is it actually worth it?
Yeah. And UX designers on this call, I'm
watching me and you on this call.
You and me on this call. If you're a UX designer watching this, like, these are the types of intentional decisions you're making every single day with your designs, like coming up with, trying to decide, like, where is this? Should this be over here? And so often I've seen, let's redesign and make it look different. And like different is cooler. I've heard in rooms of stakeholders wanting things. Oh, this looks too similar. This is too, like, let's change it up and make it different. And it's like, no, like there's a intentional reason why we don't want to do that. And there's just so many decisions that need to be made about all of these little things. So stand your ground. I hope we're giving you some good fodder to explain to people. Yeah, ammunition to say, like, no, we're not moving that because this is going to make it harder for people. This is going to add more tech debt and make it cost more for our development teams. Like, there's good reasons why you should not be doing this.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And that's so true. Sometimes we hear that where like people want to be creative, like save your creativity for another place. Like do not reinvent the wheel unless, like, there's plenty of places where we need our creativity, and, just changing things around arbitrarily is not one of them.
Not it. I wanted to call it one other thing. So if Rocket Money, if you're listening, please add a little icon here so I can edit this title and rename it closer. That's all I needed to.
Oh, Rocket Money. Otherwise, you're doing a wonderful job, it sounds
wonderful
like.
Job. Wonderful job.
Yes. So if this was helpful, if you have any questions about shapeshifters, put your comments below. And then again, yes, if this was helpful, please give us a like. Please give us a
like and
subscribe. We're just getting started here. We're just getting off the ground. So that would be really, really helpful for us. And again, if you just like this and you want to comment, that also helps us so much, just to put something in the comment box below and let us know what you thought of the video.
Yeah. And if this is your first time hearing about UX fails and OOUX, we have a variety of resources. We'll put them in the notes below. But, we have a wait list for our upcoming course where we dive deep into these 4 UX fails that we talk about here, and the psychology behind them and why they're so frustrating, and tangible ways to remove them.
Awesome. So happy OOUXing, everybody. And
happy OOUXing.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.